So rent to own, I have a whole class just on rent to own. The idea behind rent to own is you're putting an option on the property in order to buy, right, in the future. And there's a myriad of ways that you can monetize that structure, right? You can put an option on the property. You can get the spread while the tenant is in there, and then the capital gain when the tenant actually buys. Right? If the tenant is buying at 110, you have an option for 100. You get the $10,000 difference when the tenant actually purchases. In addition to the monthly delta on the rent, you can also say, hey, wait a second, I have no desire to do sandwich leases and internalize that risk. I'm just going to put this structure together, step out of the way, put the tenant and the landlord together, and I'll collect a fee for that. I'll get the option consideration fee, right? So people have to pay a fee to put an option on the property. It doesn't just go like, oh, I can buy the house whenever I want to. An option, you're tying up that property for 8 months, 12 months, 2 years. You're not allowing the seller to sell that property to anyone else except for you if you've got an option on it. That's worth something. It's called option consideration. You put it up front, right? And you pay, and that comes off the total purchase price if you do exercise. It's not refundable either. So I know people who all they do is rent-to-own deals, this structure, and they get the option consideration. Typically 1 point of the deal, maybe 2 points, $3,000, $5,000. Pretty sweet. There's no risk. You're just brokering the deal, right? You can do this on crappy investment properties where you don't ever hope to buy, but you're gonna look for a capital gain. You can do this on commercial properties. Long 10-year type options. The people I've seen it in the land records. I wasn't part of the transaction, but I've seen in the land records for DC. People put a 10-year option on a piece of Georgetown property. It wasn't worth that much when they started. It was worth a heck of a whole lot after Georgetown got all built up, right? What are they going to do with that option? They're probably going to sell the option. They're not a developer. They're just going to sell the option, collect their $1 million or whatever, and move on to the next deal. Or just retire if they want. Right? Okay. All right. The other thing about rent-to-own is that I like to mention on rent-to-own is especially for real estate agents, it's great for expanding your buyer pool. So a lot of these rent-to-own tenants are just grateful for the opportunity to buy something. So if you've got a dog property that you just cannot get rid of and you're about to lose your listing, a lot of times you can suggest to rent-to-own to your seller. That will expand the pool of eligible buyers who want that property because they're willing to overlook, the eyesores, the rehab that went wrong, et cetera. They're just looking for an opportunity. And then you can collect at least something, a fee, up front. Yep.
Do you know of any place that we can advertise rent-to-owns and also go find rent-to-owns? I just found it difficult to find and advertise rent-to-owns.
Yeah. Craigslist is the notorious rent-to-own capital. You can see rent-to-own advertisements in the listing service in MLS. It's rare. I would hire a VA to troll through. Usually those properties are listed as both for sale and for rent, so that might be a tip-off. And then the remarks section is where I would look and just say they'll mention the words rent. And you can do a search, rent to own, or lease option, or whatever in the search fields and see what comes up and pull it. Yeah. A lot of times people who are doing these deals, they're trying to find the landlords willing to do it, so they'll actually call. They'll have a list of landlords, and they're just calling the landlords who have properties for rent and say, hey, would you take a rent-to-own option? And then they bring it to market. There's a lot more tenants who are willing to do rent-to-own than there are landlords willing to do it. So people kind of have to convert, yeah.
You usually see that in the
down market. In more of a buyer's market, yeah. People who are tight, right, on their numbers, meaning their mortgages, is tight. Okay, thanks for coming. Then they're looking at they really want to sell, but they can't sell because the mortgage is too high. So they're just trying to kick this out for 2 or 3 years so that they regain some equity and or pay down that mortgage, and so then they can sell. So that's another outlet for rent to own in a way that you can potentially find people interested or sell them on it.